Hello everybody, welcome back to another interview video, because I haven't done one of these in quite a while. But this time I thank you to George that we have here for letting me interviewing him. He is one of the developers from the recent game I reviewed, Grey Dawn. So yeah, hey George, how are you doing?
Hello, fine.
Cool. The interview will go through a series of questions. I have over 20 of them, so feel free to answer them as you want. But getting into it real quickly, what is your real name and work domain?
Okay, so my real name, my name is George Remus. For the Romanians, I guess it's easier to pronounce it than for the
To pronounce
foreigners.
it, yes. Mm-hmm.
And not my game, our game is Grey Dawn. And Grey Dawn, it's a first-person adventure psychological thriller. So to describe it, about a priest who's being accused of murdering an altar boy.
Cool.
That's the main idea.
And within the team working on the Grey Dawn, what did you do?
I was the artist and the writer. I came with the idea and dragged all the people in this in this affair.
Cool. So you were the idea guy from the start?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we understand that you are from Romania.
Yeah.
And what is your age?
I'm 26. 26, yeah.
Cool.
It's
So
not
at 20
it's not that I don't know what age I am. It's just to pronounce it in English.
Not a problem. Yeah, so at 26 you have quite a cool game developed here, so really nice. And how did you get into video games? Playing them, I mean.
Well, I'm not a huge game. I'm not a gamer actually. I like to create games because that's what I'm. That's what I know best to do. Interestingly, I didn't plan in the beginning to work on a video game industry. I wanted to be a movie director when I was in high school. I was always passionate about movies. I wanted to when I would have grown up to direct historical movies. I was passionate about war and history, and I wanted to portray historical events from around the world, and I wanted to make big productions like Ridley Scott, for example. I wanted to make huge war movies, and obviously that didn't happen because of various reasons. Namely,
Yeah, and our movie industry is so big in Romania.
yeah, and not that it's big, as it's you know it's as it is. It was because it was very expensive and very selective in the ways of who's gonna succeed and who's not gonna succeed. So I went to art faculty, fine arts university, and I studied graphics, traditional graphics, namely painting, engraving, and stuff like this. And I started on my own when I realized that in Romania, art is not a way of living. You cannot live by selling your art in Romania. I started to, I panicked at first in the second year, and I thought of, hey, let's try something digital, because I've heard that it would be a good chance for me to become a designer after the faculty, and I started doing some logos in Photoshop, and I didn't like that thing, and then I searched for some softwares for animation, and I discovered Maya and 3ds Max, and so I got into 3D modeling and creating environments and stuff like this. And it was, for me, it was fascinating, because though even it was a different path towards, because I wanted to make movies in my early age. Now I had the chance to create everything that I dreamed of. I didn't need to search for people to act in my movies. I could have simply created them 3D and to create environments that I dreamed of, and so it was. It kind of it offered to me much more than movie school could have offered me in the in technical aspects.
Awesome. Yeah. So okay, this is a new thing. So you weren't into video games, but
Yeah.
you came from a movie perspective and wanting to make something like that, but you found games as a medium to make your art as another alternate.
Yeah.
Quite cool.
And I found in the video games, more accessible than creating movies, because you don't always have the material resources to create stuff in real life on the movie set. And in video games, it's just simply you just model them as you want and you do everything you want with it. It's much more easier.
And when you got into this media, did you try a few games out to see how they work, how the medium is confined, or what are your possibilities?
Well, from a technical point of view, I was never passionate about about video games. I didn't knew much about video games because I didn't have had a computer since when I bought a serious computer on which I could play a game. It was around my first year at the university, so that's around 8 years ago, which for many is too late. So I got I got later in the technical aspects, in having a computer and trying video games. I remember one of the first games I've played was actually Age of Empires, the first Age of Empires, and even it was 2010. It was for me Age of Empires 1, the one with Rise of Rome, because someone offered me his computer, and it was a pretty old computer. It was old-fashioned for back then, that computer, and it had Windows 98 on it, and it was the trial version of Age of Empires. And in 2010 there were many great games that appeared, and I was playing something that was 10 years older and even older than this. And I discovered this. I didn't know much about video games. I started, clicking in that window. I didn't know what happened. I just clicked that icon because it looked interesting. And I started clicking on the humans that were around it was the town center. And they suddenly started moving, and then I clicked on various stuff, and they started gathering berries from bushes. They started hunting,
and then you had a mind blow.
Yeah, it was fascinating, though it looked like crap from my perspective right now as I see it. But back then it was, to me, oh my god! And bear in mind, it was around 10 years ago, so it was not in my childhood. And that is because in high school, when I was restrained by I was conditioned basically by financial problems, and I wasn't really dreaming of having a computer. So I wished to have a typewriter, and I still have it. And it was a typewriter where I wrote basically stories and screenplays, which I dreamed that one day I will make big movies like Ridley Scott, but that never happened. So
awesome.
Someone at the point gave me this computer to write my stories and not to
that's cool. But it's still awesome that you practically experience Age of Empires, which is a loved game in our medium, but you experience it just a bit later than most of us that
Yeah, it was
played it normally at the
12
beginning.
years later.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So going forward, okay, and any other games that you might have played between Age of Empires and starting to work on Grey Dawn?
Well, yeah, it so happened that I got into, I started, I found some magazines. It was a Romanian magazine called PC
Level
Games.
or
No,
PC
it
games?
wasn't
Okay.
Level. It was too expensive for me. So there was for a year it appeared, I guess, and it was just a piece of paper with a CD, with a game, with a CD and its manual.
The demo CDs, yeah.
Yeah, and it had Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth. So that was very dark, and it's one of my favorite games because I didn't play much games. So yeah, that's one of my favorite games, and I bought that. Then I heard about the level magazine. And it so happened that I bought the last, I guess the last number, and it was dedicated to the horror games. And it had, I guess I have it around me in my drawer. It had reviews, and it was a tribute paid to the biggest horror games ever created. It was Resident Evil, it was Silent Hill, which I got in love with. It was Cliff Barker's Undying.
Undying, yeah. So much.
And
cool
being I didn't have the computer to play those games because I had that old rig. And in time, I've upgraded my computer, and I played those games. And because I didn't have a strong computer, I was constrained somehow to play older games. And
yeah, Cliff Baker's Undying I know to be quite old.
Exactly. And I replayed them. I was reading the magazine reviews of the horror games, and that's somehow how it started for me to continue writing small horror stories, and this inclination towards dark, let's say, imagery, 3D imagery, and horror movies and stuff like this. I find it much easier to create. I don't know why, because when I was writing screen movies, I wrote also comedy, also different types, but I found it much easier to create to create and write horror stuff.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. And before Grey Dawn, did you work on something else more elaborately, let's say? Or
apart from just writing, no, there was nothing. I worked for around 2 years in a company that produced mobile phones, mobile applications, and it so happened that the boss there wanted to create video games, and that kind of didn't work because there wasn't enough manpower. I didn't know anything about video games. I was like. I don't know. I was a noob. I didn't know anything, and I was just staying there and guaranteeing to the boss that I will create a video game one day. I was the only employer, and that didn't happen. And so I met my actual teammates in that company, and so we decided that we can do something on our own, and that's kind of how it. Started the short history of our company. There's nothing incredibly fascinating about the Interactive Stone as a company.
Okay, so you three guys came together before starting to work and having a vision on this Grey Dawn game.
Yeah, we knew each other. Actually, one of the programmers in fact, both of the programmers released some small mobile games for for iPhone, and that kind of wasn't a big success, but it was kind of a starting point, and entering in this world. So I didn't create anything. I had the vision, but I needed the manpower, and we completed each other, each with precious skills.
Yeah, each with his own. Yeah, quite cool. So for Grey Dawn, how the idea came to be
Well, it's
in the team, let's say.
First to say it was my idea, and it came like I had something in my mind. I created something 3D. It wasn't a very explicit, a very explicit idea, but I tried to create some environments and to hook the two guys I'm working with in this project, but they asked me what is about. We need a screenplay, we need something to work, and I wrote, I gathered all my papers I had around along the years, and I gathered them in a story, The Priest of Black Tower it was called, and it was basically the story of Grey Dawn, and so it happened.
Okay. So basically they put you to make a story out of some outlines that you had before.
I had many small ideas and I combined them in a single one, and so that's how it came. The idea, the small aspects of the game, the visual stuff, the interesting references were mostly from personal experiences, places I've visited and stuff like this.
Yeah, so this goes perfectly into the next question. What were the main sources of inspirations? Or other games, movies, real events?
Yeah, inspiration is something that is very fluid in this environment in art. Of course, I was inspired by a lot of movies because I love gothic movies. I love Guillermo del Toro, stuff like this Tim Burton. So yeah, there were those movies really dark and gothic, but in the same time beautiful, like fairy tales. Then there were video games like I don't know. I was inspired by Silent Hill, of course, because of the atmosphere and the psychological aspect of the how the horror is portrayed. It was then The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Those are earlier titles, later titles. Sorry.
Yeah, The Vanishing.
Some said that they felt a bit of Undying vibes, though I wasn't inspired by Undying, but some people felt something from Undying. Of course, books, Lovecraft, I don't know, French poetry and stuff like this, and also real stories, because the idea of a priest who is accused of murdering, and the idea came from actual real case from Transylvania around 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. A Unitarian priest killed his two children in the church because he was desperate of his wife who was gonna die because of cancer. So that's how I came to the idea of a priest who's accused of murdering his child and his wife soon going to die in the game. His girlfriend actually dies, and that's how I came with this particular idea.
Okay.
And actually a great deal of inspiration was from the places where we are born, from Romania, because there's a great deal of history and folklore that has more potential than we may think.
So I guess because you took as an inspiration that story with a priest, then this opened up a lot of windows going through the religious stuff, and you're starting to implement a lot of iconography, and that is cool. Okay. And working on the game, what were the main difficulties that you encountered when
Uh,
you...
well, many say that creating a video game is difficult, but I didn't find the technical parts as being difficult. They were at least challenging, but not.
Mm-hmm.
I never encountered something that it was beyond my power and beyond my skill to tackle it. Uh, you know, Speaking about time, it wasn't. I didn't had to work at night. Do some overtime in the sense that working over that never it never happened to me to work over 10 hours per day. It was pretty chill, though it was
Mm-hmm.
a full-time job. It was pretty relaxing because we had milestones, we had sort of deadlines which we imposed on ourselves, and it was pretty easy. And I'm speaking as an artist. To me, maybe for the programmers they encountered something difficult, but I cannot speak on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
But I never had the impression that we are stuck and we don't know what to do, and we are. It worked fairly smoothly, apart
Mm-hmm.
from clashes because of our different views of the on particular points on the story and stuff like this. But other than this, it, it, it was fairly, let's say, easy. Of course, there were financial problems because creating video games in Romania is not very very let's say is as costly as
Mm-hmm.
working on other countries. But
So
there were
within
some
this time,
financial problems. But apart from
yeah.
this,
So within this time, did you had to work another job also?
uh, really small projects. I'm also painting icons, so from time
Mm-hmm.
to time I worked on some commissions. But other than this, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't work on other projects,
Yeah,
game
okay.
projects, because I preferred to make a bit of a sacrifice and channel my whole attention and intellectual power on this game
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and not be
So
distracted by other projects.
did this? So did this game had let's say some sponsors that were interested from the start, or did you do it?
Yeah. We first had a Kickstarter
Mm-hmm.
campaign which failed, and then we signed a contract with a Romanian company called Carbon, who helped us with the financial part. They
Okay.
offered
Okay.
us the money we needed to develop the game.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome that you found them.
Hmm.
Hopefully they are real proud because I see the game doing well on Steam and all.
Well, from a critical point of view, is doing
Mm-hmm.
unexpectedly well. I wasn't expecting to have such good reviews, and that's kind of, let's say, from an economical point of view,
Mm-hmm.
it's not doing great at all.
Yeah, because it's still a small game, I guess. Hopefully, yeah, more will see it
Yeah,
and
my
start.
guess is to have success is to have a good game, and if you don't have a good game, like many games that are not good, you need either to have money or a crazy amount of luck, because there are some
Mm-hmm.
terrible games. I guess it's a Granny. It's a horror mobile game, and it's basically shit. And it was just lucky. It was just lucky. That's
Mm-hmm.
my whole
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah. Luck plays a big part in this discovering industry because basically this is it. You touching other people, like letting them see your product just a bit.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So yeah, if you don't have a good game, it's either you have a lot of money or you have a ton of luck.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
Mm-hmm.
personal opinion, and we kind of didn't have either of this. So,
Yeah. Well, being a nice game and being appreciated from a critical standpoint, hopefully with the time because you know Steam games sell for years, so hopefully, yeah, it will be better in the future. Also, how long did you work on this game? Like 3 years or?
Yeah, around 3 years, because you know it was one man job on each department, let's say. So it was one guy on art. Well, there were two guys on programming, but yeah, it took 3 years to work on it.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Okay, so other questions.
Yep.
What would be your developer dream if you would want to go more into future in the same industry? I'm asking, what would you like to make you successful?
Well, it's hard to say. I still want to create video games. I want to work on, you know, greater titles, not big budget products. But if you want to make a game better and better, and you dream like I was dreaming to make big movies like Ridley Scott, you need money. So you sort of enter in this arena with sharks, and where you have to ask for money, do some pitching, and do a lot of marketing stuff. So yeah, I dream, I would lie if I would say that I dream to still be indie like this, because it's nice to just have a few teammates, but in the end, if you want to go next level, you need more manpower, you need more money, because let's say 50k euros, it's though it may sound a lot of money, it's really not. It's a really small sum of money. So you need more and more money, you need more and more manpower, you need to be present at networking events like Gamescom, Comic-Con, and stuff like this. You need to show off your game. So yeah, I dream to grow to raise Interactive Stone at greater heights. But yeah, it's a team effort. So we dream to create bigger games. Yeah, because for example, when I started to work with one of my teammates after I ended working on that company, we started working on a small game, very colorful game, cartoony for mobile, and it was something like Crimson Land, where you have to shoot monsters that come towards you, and that was nice. But we had the idea that was like, okay, we released the game, but it's not something that people are gonna remember, let's say, after they play it. They're gonna play while waiting for the bus, and that's all. While with Great Dawn, it's something different. It creates something in you if you are receptive to the stuff that is trying to be transmitted there. And
it's definitely one that you remember as an experience.
Yeah, so I wanted to make something, let's say, greater than just simple short experience, and that's the main idea. I want to create, I dream actually to create experiences, because my goal as an artist is to provide people with different emotions, and I'm good at, from what I see, at creating suspense, let's say panic, wonder, fear, sadness, I don't know. That's what cool. I dream. And
yeah, and on Great Dawn, I know that you worked a bit on the game after it was launched, like with some translations and all. Do you plan to add more to it, or it is a complete project?
Well, we plan to add we want to add on future updates more languages, but that's depending only the let's say the financial success of the game. Right now it's not really that good, and our only chance to add more languages is for someone to do it for free, basically, because we don't have the money to pay translations for other languages like Japanese, which are very expensive than
Yeah.
than let's say French or Italian.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's the harsh reality. But yeah, if it would have been, you know, a greater success, we would have add more and more stuff. For example, I was receptive to the feedback, and I would have, for example, if it would have been a success, I would have changed a lot of voice acting, because we are conscious that it's not an Oscar-winning voice acting, and that costs money. I would rework some models, some characters, namely, because they were, let's say, not on the same level with the rest of the graphics.
Yeah, I saw some scenes with the kids. Yeah,
on the orphanage when they are yeah, and that is, but you know, if you see from if one thinks from my point of view, I think it's a great achievement, even though it does the kids don't look that great, because for example that map with the orphanage, with the Little Prince orphanage, where the kids are dancing in the courtyard, it was created in around 4 weeks. And I had to create to create the environments, to create the, you know, the building, the puzzle ideas, creating the characters, working on their animations, you know, adding sounds and stuff like this. So it's a pretty huge amount of work.
Yeah, and that scene, for example, taking that house with the kids, it was one of the coolest that I found in the game, and the boat ride and all. But as I said in my review, considering that you are developing the first game and you are also indie developer with a very limited funding, I do appreciate that even though it isn't perfect from a voice acting perspective, it's still really okay. And for me, it didn't detract much, basically. So, yeah.
Look, for example, an inside thing about the characters, the children, and the people at the funeral. Actually, for creating the characters, their anatomy, I've used a software which is called the Mixamo Fuse. It's a software where you create your characters like just adjusting some sliders. You make them bigger, smaller. You can increase their boob size. You can do whatever you want with them. But you know, in the end, I needed this software because I was in a short. I had little time at disposal. I used this software, but in the end, I felt that, you know, it wouldn't be fair. I mean, I created such nice environments, and I put this. I'm gonna put these characters which every developer in the world will recognize them, and even gamers, YouTubers are getting sick of, you know, like asset flips. So I thought that creating them clothes, specific clothes, would change them and will make the people see this thing. Like even if I took a character which is free, I came with my own, let's say, contribution, and basically changed them. So that's how I created all the, you know, traditional Romanian clothes, let's say, for the characters, and basically gave them a whole new life, even if the animation, let's say, are not that good.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I have two questions about the industry. As a future, what most excites you in this industry, within this gaming industry? As a potential, let's say, or...
Well, I'm not a geek, speaking about, you know, technology. I'm not that good at technology. I'm really, really not impressed by virtual reality, though I'm sure it's gonna, in the future years, to play some huge role. I'm excited about the visuals, which are becoming more and more better. I'm, you know, I don't know what to say. I see more and more games that are reconsidering their purpose, let's say. I mean, we see more and more games about that are not just shooting and killing, and are becoming actual experiences, like where you can learn something.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, I mean, I would like personally to see video games in education, because, for example, in Romania, we see video games, and not only in Romania, but in many places, we see video games as bearing this stigmata, let's say, that they can make people violent, and in some cases, it's a real thing. They can make us violent, but I would like to see to see video games in education. For example, I always loved the Total War series, and I always imagined how a history class would be when the teacher would show us like real armies clashing and fighting, the Japanese soldiers and stuff like this. It would be pretty interesting. It can be a great achievement for if we could have used video games in education.
Yeah, and I know they are starting to incorporate more games into this learning and education industry. Hopefully, we'll see more and more, because yeah, you are right. Even with the games, people are starting to get more into the experience and even trying to make drama games. Exactly.
That's what I try to do, even with Great Dawn, and that's what I plan to create for the future, let's say, future project. If there's gonna be another one, hopefully so. I want to create meaningful experiences, something that even though I'm not a gamer, I'm always playing grinding. I'm playing Path of Exile, and I was obsessed a few years of Diablo, which are not educational and are just time eating experiences. And so I want to create stuff that it's not like this, and hopefully Blizzard will do the same with the future Diablo game, because this one, it wasn't that great.
It is good, at least for me, the Diablo games are good to unstress, let's say.
Yeah, because I'm playing Path of Exile, and even now I'm playing, not as I speak with you, but in this period of year, I'm playing Path of Exile, and I'm just playing and thinking about stuff that I'm gonna do. I mean, like, I'm really clicking and killing stuff around me, and I'm thinking of my personal projects, about the wedding, because I'm getting married, about future plans.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice.
So yeah, it's, as you said, it's to distress myself. And
Okay, another question. What would you change in this gaming industry from your experience?
No, it's very complicated. There are a lot of great things, and I don't think I'm really at that level of experience to say that I would eliminate something, because I can say that I would eliminate something, but in fact that thing I would have want to eliminate, it's a plus to the industry. I don't know.
No.
Let's say for now I would eliminate, I would try to change the point, the approach, because some companies try to, as in art and in movies, we see that they try to make a quick cash by delivering experiences that are shocking. For example, a week before releasing Grey Dawn, there was another game released, which is called Agony. And it's basically a game about being in hell, and everything is portrayed as one would imagine hell. And then there was released another game which is called Lust for Darkness, which is basically a porn game, but it's very it's created in the mood of Eyes Wide Shut. And I would I'm not gonna say that are bad games, but the approach of those games is pretty, to me,
Disgusting or?
Not really disgusting. It's pretty cheap because they're just showing sex and they are selling sex and it's not in a very good quality. You know, it's childish. It's always portraying huge mutilated genitals and stuff like this. They're trying to shock.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah,
when the
okay.
first trailer of Agony appeared, it was just like a shock. You know, it was
So
basically
this would be
hell.
like the television equivalent where there are those shows that you eat gross stuff or yeah that are just trying to shock you and
Exactly, and you know it's doing more harm than good. This stuff because people get used to this type of experiences, and they are gonna expect more. You give them more porn, they are gonna expect more porn. You know, and that's what happens.
yeah, good point. Yes.
And you know, it's not that I'm against porn. People do whatever they want to do, but you know, if you can do something greater than this, why not? You know, you maybe because people working on those studios, from example from Agony, are veterans of the industry. Yet they approach this game so childish, let's say.
Yeah, I understand.
And I would kind of change this. I would try to make this a serious business as the movie industry is. And you know, I see this.
Even though the movie business has his let's say dark corners.
Well, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But we see in movies created that are educational and they are great. It's not the same thing that we see in video games, and I would kind of want to see this in the future. You know, more mature and meaningful experiences.
Cool, and hopefully we will. So I guess we went about like 40 minutes into this interview. Any final words you want to say about Grey Dawn?
Well, let's hope things are going to work better with this game, because right now it kind of sucks. And you know, that's kind of all. We are open to change a lot of stuff. We plan to release for consoles, but you know, that's not just gonna happen tomorrow, because you know, it depends on a lot of stuff, especially you know, financial stuff. It's pretty ugly, but that's the reality. I'm not gonna shy away. And for the future, we have ideas. I have a lot of ideas. My teammates have a lot of ideas.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's just about when the next opportunity to start working on this. No, of course, we are not gonna abandon Grey Dawn. Of course not. We're answering, we're posting, but you know, it's not gonna be our main focus for the future. Because
so everybody watching, give this game a try. It really is something created from an artistic point of view, and it's worth the experience. So they give them basically through this give the developers and Georgia here another chance of creating something even more better. So I would also ask one last thing.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any advice to anyone that would aspire to get into this game making industry?
Well, it's just start doing it. It's as simple as that. A few months ago, I had a master class at university, and I told the students, because many of them didn't have the so high skills in creating the concept art and stuff like this, and I told them, even if you're not good at drawing, if you have something in your mind, write it down. I mean, write how the character looks, write what happens, and you're never gonna lose what are you writing if you don't throw it away. It's fairly easy to enter in this industry and create small stuff, games like Mario and stuff like this, because there's free technology. All the great engines, Unity and Unreal Engine, are free, You can download them and just start working. There are other software that is free, tutorials on YouTube, a lot of them. You don't need to panic, and for the artist, always being connected to internet hubs, places like ArtStation, where you can upload your portfolio, find jobs, connect with all great artists around the world, stuff like this. Just start doing it and be very, very, very dedicated. I think
Awesome.
the difference between people who succeed and people who do not succeed is that people who succeed are people that are just doing it. You just have to do it, and eventually you're gonna succeed. If you're still doing it and you are very dedicated, and it means your whole life, you're gonna succeed, let's say.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way or another.
Cool. Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot for this opportunity for this interview.
Thank you very much.
So it was fun to get into all these details, and it was cool to find out more about the Great Dawn game. As I said, I found it quite a cool game, and it was worth the experience. Any final words?
I don't know. Hopefully, we're gonna create better games in the future. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's my main goal. Good luck to everyone starting in this industry. Don't be disappointed if you don't succeed from the first time. It's a really trial and error, and that's the life.
Awesome.
Be positive about this. Have faith.
Yeah, it is the root of all good, let's say. Okay, so thank you all for watching this video. If you stayed until now, I thank you a lot and I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it as I did. And go on ahead and give Great Dawn a try. It's a really cool game and fully worth your time for at least one playthrough, which doesn't take long. It's about 4 hours at maximum or something like that. So I guess this is it. Again, thank you a lot. I hope you have a great day ahead, and feel free to check other videos too. And I will close this now, and thank you again. Have a great day ahead. Bye.
Bye.